Peppa Pig. Cursed Puddle. It was a light, rainy day, and George was especially excited. He loved jumping in muddy puddles. While Peppa stayed inside drawing, George ran outside in his rubber boots and began happily splashing around the familiar yard. But after a few minutes, he noticed a strange puddle, dark, motionless, with a weird shimmer on its surface. It was off to the side near the old tree, and he was sure it hadn't been there before. George walked closer. The puddle looked deeper than the others. He smiled, took a running start, and jumped right into the center. The splash sounded dull, like he'd landed not in water but in something thick. He looked down. The water was nearly black, and in the reflection he didn't see himself. Only a shadow, long and twisted. At first, George felt nothing. But as he walked back to the house, his legs grew heavier, his body colder. Daddy Pig greeted him at the door and immediately noticed something was wrong. George was silent, his eyes dull, his skin slightly gray. He didn't speak at dinner, just sat there with an empty stare, completely still. The next morning, Peppa found George in her room. He was standing by the window, staring at the puddle, but now his eyes were entirely black. When she called his name, he turned and hissed softly. His face had lengthened, his lips were cracked, and his teeth were longer and sharper. Peppa screamed. The family gathered in panic. Daddy Pig tried to approach, but George pushed him away with inhuman strength. Thick black liquid oozed from his skin. His arms were stretching, and his legs began to split, like those of a swamp creature. He no longer spoke, only made low, gurgling noises. Mummy Pig tried calling someone, but the phone wouldn't work. The screen was covered in the same black moisture, as if the puddle had entered the house. That evening, George disappeared. The back door stood wide open, and the puddle had grown even larger. Now it pulsed like it was alive, and reflected not the house, but something else. Daddy Pig went out to investigate, and never returned. Then Mummy Pig. Peppa was the last one left. She locked herself in her room, hearing claws scrape the floors, and the black liquid bubbling in the hallway. She knew it was George, but it wasn't really him anymore. The creature stopped at her door and spoke in her own voice. "Peppa, come play in the puddles." The lights went out. The footsteps drew near. In the morning, the house was empty, and the puddle in the yard was even wider. And in it, something was still reflected.